Due to solar flares, our experts say to expect potential showers today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. The public is advised to wear sunscreen to avoid burning during the flare-ups. In related news, these unpredictable solar flares are not only responsible for the rolling blackouts affecting the area in the past few days, they are now also being shown to have potentially harmful effects on those with a mental disorder, synesthesia. Synesthesia is the result of irregular brain chemistry, causing the patient to experience certain forms of cross-sensory perception. For instance, always seeing letters in a certain color, red P's, teal Q's, and so on. Psychologists say that only a few rare cases should be affected by the flare-ups. Even so, those afflicted with synesthesia are asked to report in, especially if they notice any symptoms during the blackouts.
Seriously, Ivan, you should really report your headaches to Dr. Cleason. I mean, even if you don't think they're, serious, he would want to know.
You just want to see me during your workday.
Fine, so sue me. And the fact that you always get headaches when the power goes out really shouldn't concern anyone. It's healthy. Everyone gets headaches when it's total darkness.
No, not everyone gets headaches in total darkness. That's just it. I don't think it's related to the power. It's just the same problem I always get.
Hello? Yeah, sure, of course. Hold on a sec.
Hello? Hey Eric. How are you? What do you mean, dead? Hit by... during one of the blackouts. Jesus, I can't... And they want you to... Oh, God. I'll see you in 20 minutes.
What happened? He sounded terrible.
It's Eric. His fiancée was killed. Hit by a bus during the power out.
Oh, God.
And now they want him to identify the body.
Oh, God, he can't.
Of course he can't. I'm gonna go meet him. Just gonna get dressed.
Which one of you is Mr. Eric Richmond?
I am, but, he needs to come too.
He needs to? I'm afraid that's not really, standard procedure, you know? We're not supposed to display the bodies to the public for any reason. Only family.
I know, but he's like my best friend, and he's known her for a really long time. And he was as much family as I am, and I need his help.
You need your friend's help IDing your fiance's body?
I know, that must seem really messed up, but...
You've never heard of propagnosia, have you?
Propagnosia? No, I guess I can't say that I have.
Well, it's this mental thing where people can't differentiate between different faces.
I'm not sure I follow.
Well, like, all people sort of look the same to me.
So you can't identify your fiance?
Yeah, well, I know that must seem really weird and kind of suspicious or something, but it happens. I mean, it's legitimate.
Like, imagine looking at a crowd of people all wearing the same mask. It's like that, kind of.
Well, I could probably pick you out in a crowd because of your eyes.
I'm sorry, he didn't mean it like that.
It's okay. I'm used to it. Why do you think I work with dead people all day? They don't notice and they don't comment.
I meant it as a compliment.
Whatever. Sure, so bring your friend and come ID the dead girl then, if the officer says it's okay.
Sure, I guess so. Propagnosia. Who saw that coming? Imagine, a guy not being able to identify his own fiancée. Some wonderful romance that must have been.
So, what does the day look like?
Busy as usual. The city will never run out of people that are ready to assume they're crazy. And you'll never run out of business because of it.
That's the way of things. For better or for worse.
By the way, Ivan is still getting headaches during the blackouts. I told him he should come and see you, but
If he doesn't want to, I can't help him.
I know, but
Remember when the blackouts first began? And we had this conversation?
yeah, and
And then a few days later, we had the same conversation. And a week afterwards, we discussed the same things. And then again last week. And here we are now. If Ivan doesn't seem to feel that it's a problem, there's nothing I can do for him.
I just don't see how he can think it's okay to get headaches in the dark. I mean, how is that not a problem?
Well, that is of course an issue of society.
Migraines are an issue of society.
It's our perception that the cause of his migraines is somehow wrong. It's sort of an interesting thing that in more tribal cultures and so on, the people we would call schizophrenics become shaman and holy men. People hear voices that come from inside their heads, and we here today see it as madness. But for all we know, they could be hearing real things we simply aren't privileged enough to hear. It's the same with Ivan. He perceives things in a way that we cannot, and therefore we assume that the fault is his. It's the same with Ivan. He perceives things in a way that we cannot, and therefore we assume that it's his fault. Maybe instead we should be looking at human evolution and wondering how it might be benefited by a new genetic tendency to feel the effects of life on a new level.
Okay, I could agree with you there. But what about Eric Richmond? I mean, his fiancée was killed this morning, poor thing. And he was called in to identify the body.
A propagnosia patient called in to identify a body?
Oh my god, are you laughing?
Well, I admit this must seem a bit insensitive, but come on, talk about dramatic irony. I bet he'll have an interesting time explaining that one to the mortician. And I imagine that your Ivan went with him?
Of course he did.
Well, yes. In terms of mental evolution, a case like Eric's is difficult to argue. Of course, the idea that in our society, a person like Eric can get along suggests a sort of miraculous notion that we as people no longer need to identify each other by our sort of markings, if you will. Propagnosia's existence could imply that we have reached the level of consciousness where we no longer need to rely on the readily apparent, and instead make assessments based on character, personality, visible or proven actions, and so on.
But you can't argue that animals judge each other based on markings or whatever. Not all animals recognize each other visually. Besides,
Sheep can recognize other sheep from photographs.
who does studies on that? Anyway, what is it? 90% of human communication is not what you say, but how you say it? So he's missing a lot by not being able to, necessarily judge differing expressions.
Then you have to ask yourself, what is the evolutionary purpose of a so-called disorder like propagnosia? And if it has no place in the evolution of the human mind? And is instead a sort of madness or hindrance?
I didn't say it was some sort of madness. And anyway, you better make your point quickly. I can see your first client on the street.
If madness is, and of itself, not a kind of societal mechanism, why are more and more people convinced of their own insanity? If so-called normative behavior is so important, why do people thrill at giving scientific names to all their insecurities?
Why do people trust you with their brains?